Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're talking about something that feels like it's straight out of science fiction. We're looking at how new technology is giving a voice to a crime scene's most silent witness, DNA. For years, DNA could be a ghost in the system, just a code with no name. But what if we could actually ask that ghost who it was?
So, for decades, this has been a huge problem for investigators. They get to a crime scene, they find DNA, but when they run it, it doesn't match a suspect and it's not in any national database. The trail just goes cold. All you have is an anonymous genetic code, a real ghost in the machine. But what if we could ask that ghost some questions?
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about why traditional DNA testing sometimes hits a dead end. Then, we're going to dive into the amazing new science that's unlocking our DNA's hidden stories. After that, we'll see what this actually reveals. And finally, we'll look at where this is all headed, the future of forensics.
Okay, so to really get why this new tech is such a big deal, we have to start with the problem it was built to solve, and that is the classic DNA dead end.
For a long time, the gold standard in forensic genetics has been something called STR analysis. The best way to think of it is like a genetic barcode. It's incredibly powerful for one specific job, telling you if DNA from a suspect is a match to a sample from a crime scene. Yes or no. Simple as that.
But, and this is a huge but, that's also its biggest weakness. If you don't have a suspect to compare it to, it's pretty much useless. In these no-suspect cases, that DNA profile is just a meaningless string of numbers. The trail goes completely cold, and the investigation hits a massive brick wall.
But this is where things get really interesting. Scientists are now looking beyond the genetic code itself. They're looking at how our life experiences literally write stories onto our DNA. And this is unlocking an entirely new way of investigating.
The secret sauce here is a process called DNA methylation. Okay, here's the best way to picture it. If your DNA is this giant, complicated instruction manual for building you, methylation doesn't change any of the words in the book. Nope. Instead, it's like all the little sticky notes, the highlights, the dog-eared pages, all the marks that show which instructions have been used and how often. These little tags get added throughout our lives, and they create a unique record of our age and even our lifestyle.
And this right here, this is the paradigm shift. It is a huge change in thinking. We're moving from just asking who left this DNA to asking, what can you tell me about the person who left this DNA? We're not just looking for a genetic fingerprint anymore. We're trying to build a biological sketch artist's impression of a person.
So, what does this biological sketch actually look like? Well, the kinds of details we can now pull from a single cell, it is absolutely mind-blowing. Let's break down what's possible.
First up, we can figure out the where, as in where in the body did this DNA come from? See, because cells in different parts of your body do different jobs, their methylation patterns are totally unique. So now scientists can use specific markers to tell if a sample is blood, saliva, or semen. And this context is absolutely crucial. It can be the difference between seeing a blood stain as evidence of a violent struggle or something else entirely.
Figuring out the source of the sample is huge, for sure. But that's really just the beginning. The thing that is a true game changer is the ability to figure out a person's age just from their DNA.
So over the past decade, a bunch of different models have been built to predict age with, honestly, stunning accuracy. But the one you really got to know about is the Horvath model. It looks at 353 of these little methylation sites. And the amazing thing is, it works across all kinds of different tissues you might find at a crime scene. And it is so precise that its average error is just 3.6 years.
I mean, stop and think about that for a second. For an investigator, you go from searching for a needle in a haystack, a suspect of literally any age, to suddenly looking for someone in a very specific, very narrow age range. It's a complete and total game changer.
And that biological sketch? It can get even more detailed. Scientists are now learning to read lifestyle habits that are written in our DNA. For instance, changes to the methylation of one specific gene, the AHRR gene, are a super strong indicator of whether someone is a smoker. Now, the signals for other things like heavy alcohol use, they're still being worked out, but these clues just keep adding more and more color to the portrait of our unknown person.
Okay, so all of this sounds like incredible science, right? But it's not just stuck in a research paper. There are major efforts happening right now to turn this science into real tools that law enforcement can actually use out in the field.
Look at that number, 4.7 million euros. That's the funding for a huge European project called Format. It's bringing together 11 different institutions, including big names like King's College London, all with one clear mission: build the next generation of forensic tools using this exact science.
And their goals are super practical, very real world. They're not just doing research for the sake of it. They're aiming to develop new forensic kits, specifically to crack these no-suspect cold cases. They also want to help identify victims of mass disasters, and even provide a less invasive way to help figure out the age of asylum seekers.
Of course, you can't talk about a technology this powerful without getting into the serious ethical questions. And the scientists leading this work, they are very aware of this. A huge part of the Format project is actually dedicated to building in safeguards to protect our privacy and to make sure this data can't be used for discriminatory profiling. They know that public trust is everything.
All right, so let's just do a quick recap of the big takeaways here. Forensic DNA is evolving. It's moving way beyond just matching an identity. This new technique, DNA methylation, can help build a profile of a person, telling us their age, where the DNA came from, and even hinting at their lifestyle. This is going to be huge for solving those no-suspect cases. But as these new tools are being built, they have to be balanced with some really serious ethical safeguards. And that really leads us to the final big thought. This technology offers an unbelievable opportunity to bring answers and maybe even justice to victims and their families. But at the same time, it gives us access to some of the most personal information that's literally written into our cells. So the question we're all left with is this: as we keep unlocking our DNA's deepest secrets, who exactly should we trust to hold the key?